Okay, so we are just going to continue from the point where we have left. And in the second part of this week's lecture, we are going to talk about some basic concepts, starting with the concept of interests. So in order to understand the interest, we need to define the principle first. What is principle? Principle is a wealth in the form of money or property that can be used to produce more wealth. So this means capital, basically. So the money that you invest into a savings account is called principal, okay? Or if you want to invest in a new business or a project, the initial investment that you make into that business is called the principal. The principal is usually in the form of money, but sometimes we can use properties as principles as well. Okay, for example, if you have an automobile and if you want to use your automobile as a taxi cab, okay, with the license, of course, if you want to use your automobile as a taxi cab, then your principal here is going to be that automobile. Okay, so it is the wealth in the form of money or property which can be used to produce more wealth. If you have a house, if you rent it to somebody, that is just going to be your principal. So principal, another word for the principal is capital. And now we can learn about the interest. Now, let's just say you have 100 Turkish liras right now in your pocket, and I'm asking you this. Give me that 100 Turkish liras, and I'm going to do something with it, okay? Okay, I'm just going to purchase something with that 100 Turkish, and I'm going to repay that 100 Turkish liras to you in the future, okay? 3 months from now, okay? I'm just going to keep that 100 Turkish liras away from you for 3 months, and in the end of the third month, I'm going to repay it to you as 100 Turkish liras. I think you are not going to go okay with it, and you will just say, okay, I can give you 100 Turkish liras, but in the end of the third month, I expect you to give me more. Okay, so you are basically asking for the interest. Okay, so basically, I am using your own money for my own interest. Okay, and not for your interest. So therefore, there should be an interest for you as well. Okay, what is that interest? Interest here is the fee that is charged for the use of someone else's money. Okay, if you are lending me 100 Turkish liras right now, you are basically lending that money and you want to get some rental amount of it. Okay, so you are renting it to me and you are asking for some rental money, rental fee. Okay, so there should be a fee of keeping your money or using your money for my own interest, and that is going to be the interest of you. Okay, so if you are lending me some money for some amount of time, I need to pay you not just the initial amount that I have borrowed. I need to pay you also the costs of renting that money. Okay, for example, if I use your house to live in, you are asking for rental, right? I mean, you have a house, and if I want to live in that house for a certain amount of, you are going to ask me for some rental amount, and also when I move out, you are also going to take the house back. Okay, so basically that rental amount is the interest. So if I take some money from you, if I borrow some money from you, I also need to pay some rental amount for that money, and that is going to be called the interest. So how much interest I should pay for your 100 Turkish liras for 3 months? The size of the interest, the size of the fee is depending on two things. It depends on how much money that I borrow from you, which is the principal actually. Okay, the principal that you pay me is 100 Turkish liras here. So if you lend me some different amount of money, the interest that I need to pay for your principal is Okay, so the amount of interest is dependent on the total amount of money that is borrowed. So for example, if you lend me 100 Turkish liras, and if you want to get an interest of $10 in the following 3 months, this means I'm going to pay you $100 plus $10 more with the interest in the end of the third month. Then the same interest amount is not going to go for $1,000 as well. So if you lend me $1,000, then this means I need to pay you $1,000 plus $100 of interest for the following 3 months. So you see, if the principal amount increases, the interest increases as well. Also, the length of the time that the money or the principal is borrowed is also affecting the interest size. If I borrow $1,000 for 3 months, and if you ask me to pay 100 Turkish liras for the following 3 months, then I will ask you, what if I keep that money for 1 year? Okay, then you are going to ask for more interest, right? I mean, maybe $400, maybe more than $400, because the longer I keep your money away from you, then the larger rental amount I need to pay. Okay, so we understand the concept of interest here. Now we need to understand two more things: the concept of lender and the borrower. So when I borrow some money from you, then you are the party called lender, okay? Or if you, for example, take some loan from the bank, then the bank here is going to be the lender. The party who owns and lends the money is called the lender, and the party who borrows the money and pays interest to the lender is the borrower, okay? So the borrower pays the interest to the lender. So if one deposits capital into a bank savings account, depositor is the lender and the bank is the borrower. The bank pays interest for using depositor's money. So if you have some cash, and if you want to gain some interest out of it because you do not have any alternative investment opportunities at that moment, then you can invest that money into a savings account, and in that savings account, the bank is going to pay some interest because they are going to use your money for other investments. Okay, maybe they are going to use your money to loan some money to lend some money to somebody else. Okay, therefore, because using your money at that time, they need to pay you some interest. Now think other way around. You can also receive a loan from the bank. Let's just say you are going to start a new business, or you are going to purchase a new automobile, and you can receive some loan from the bank for that. And bank here is the lender, and you are the borrower. Okay, so the receiver here needs to pay interest to the bank for using bank's money. Okay, so as you can see, this borrowing and lending, these parties can be different at different transactions. Okay, sometimes the bank can be the lender, sometimes the bank can be the borrower. Okay, but we always know that the borrower pays the interest to the lender. Here in this question, an engineer wishes to borrow $20,000 in order to start his own business. A bank will lend him the money provided he agrees to repay $920 per month for 2 years. How much interest is he being charged? So let's understand the question. The engineer borrows $20,000 for the business, and the bank will lend him that money. So this $20,000 is the principal that the engineer is going to borrow from the bank. Okay, therefore the engineer needs to pay interest for the time that he's going to keep that money away from the bank. Okay, and he agrees to repay $920 per month for 2 years. So for the following 2 years, which means for 24 months, he is going to pay $920 at each month, these are going to be called the installments of the payment plan. Okay, installments. Okay. So how much interest is he being charged? If the engineer is going to borrow $20,000, and in the end of 2 years, he is not just going to pay this $20,000 back, plus he is going to pay 24 times 920. Okay, and that is going to be equal to 22 $1,000 and $80. Okay, $22,080. So the total amount that is going to be repaid is this amount of money, while the principal that is borrowed is $20,000. So the difference between this total repaid amount and this $20,000 is going to be called the interest amount, which is $2,080. Okay. So let's talk about the interest rate, because when we are making a transaction based on an interest, when we borrow money or lend some money to somebody else, we are always making that transaction on a decided interest rate. So if a given amount of money is borrowed for a specified period of time, and in typical examples, that specified period of time is 1 year, but there are also other periods in the contracts, a certain percentage of the money is charged as interest, and that percentage is called the interest rate. So interest rate is a percentage. Okay. The interest rates are usually influenced by the prevailing economic conditions. So if you go to a bank and ask for some money, to borrow some money, then the interest rate that they are going to expose you is going to be defined based on the prevailing economic conditions of the country, basically. So in that geography, in that country, the economic conditions are highly effective in determining the interest rates. Okay. Now, another thing is affecting on the interest rate that you are going to be exposed to, or you are going to be subject to, is the degree of risk associated with each particular loan. Now, if you go to a bank and if they check your credit rating, and in your credit rating, if you have negative points, for example, when you take a loan from other banks, and if you have not paid the interests at the required time, okay, if you have not made your payments at the required time, at the required amounts, then your credit rating is going to be low, and then this borrower is going to introduce some risk to the bank. Okay, so you are going to be considered as a risky client, okay, who may not pay the installments at the required time. Therefore, the interest rate that you are going to be subject to can be a little larger than the average. Okay, so when you want to purchase borrow some money from the bank, then you are going to be exposed to a higher interest rate. But if your credit rating is high, then the interest rate that you are going to be subject is going to be low. Okay, or let's just say you have an average credit rating, so you are just a reliable client, you have always paid your earlier debts at the required time, at the required amount, so your credit rating is okay, it is the average credit rating. However, then they are going to ask you what you are going to do with that money. Okay, so if you just say, I want to purchase a car with that money, then they are going to consider this investment as a risky investment, because that automobile that you purchase is not going to bring any revenue for you in the future. Okay, so that is just luxury. But if you say that I'm going to purchase a house, or I'm going to create a new business with that money that I borrow, then they will say that, depending on your investment plan, okay, depending on your proposition here, they may offer you a lower interest rate. Because, I mean, if you purchase a house, then that house is going to gain value in the future as well, as long as it exists. And for the bank, this investment is not a risky investment. Or if you create a business with that money, that means you are going to aim for making some profit in the future. Therefore, the bank is going to consider this investment is a profitable investment. The risk associated with this loan is going to be low. Therefore, the interest rate that you are going to be subject to can be low. This is why different people are being subject to different interest rates. For different investment propositions, banks apply different interest rates to their clients. However, another factor, do not forget about this, another factor is the prevailing economic condition which determines the interest rates. Okay, so let's talk about the interest rate here, and let's solve a question based on that. A student deposits $1,000 in a savings account that pays interest at the rate of 6% per year. How much money will the student have after 1 year? So the question is very simple. Right now, the student gives away some amount of money, $1,000, to a savings account, to a bank, and that bank, that account pays interest at a rate of 6% per year. Okay. In the end of 1 year, how much money the student is going to get? Of course, this $1,000 is going to be repaid by the bank. Plus, an interest at a rate of 6% per year is going to be repaid. So 6% interest rate here is rewritten as a decimal. You can see this decimal rate is also called the interest rate, but it is given in decimals, 0.06. So this is the percentage interest rate. This is the decimal interest rate. If you divide the percentage interest rate to 100, then you get the decimal interest rate. In all of the calculations, in all of the mathematical calculations, we always use the decimal interest rate. So this percentage interest rate is just a symbol. So 6% is equal to 0.06 interest rate as decimal. So when you multiply this 0.06 with $1,000, you will be able to calculate the interest rate that the student, the interest amount that the student is going to get. So for $1,000 at 6% interest rate per year, we get a $60 of interest rate in 1 year. So in this year, the student will have an accumulated amount of $1,000 plus $60 of interest rate, $1,060. Now let's solve another question related to the interest rate, but this time from a different perspective. An investor makes a loan of $5,000 to be repaid in one lump sum at the end of 1 year. So lump sum means what? So after making this $5,000 loan, then the payment is going to be given in a single installment, lump sum. So the initial loan amount plus the interest is going to be repaid in a single lump sum. Just like in the previous question, actually. I mean, in the end of 1 year, the student is going to have $1,060. If the student gets this money from the bank in a single installment, then this means the student gets the money in a one lump sum. Now, at the end of the first year, the investor is going to repay one lump sum amount of money. What annual interest rate corresponds to a lump sum payment of $5,425, it says. So let's just say investor borrows that money from a credit company or bank as $5,000, and in the end of the first year, this investor is going to pay $5,425 to the lender, okay? Either the credit company or the bank. So what is the interest rate here? We need to calculate the interest rate. Now, this time we are going to make our mathematical calculations in the reverse direction. First, we calculate the interest amount. So this is the principal. This amount that is repaid, and the difference between these two is $425. This is our interest amount. So this investor is subject to $425 of interest in 1 year. Now, if we take the ratio of the interest over the principal, the interest is divided to the principal, and we multiply this with 100, then we get the interest rate as a percentage. If you do not multiply it with 100, then this ratio here, 425 divided by 5,000, is going to be the decimal interest rate, which is going to be used in interest calculations. But if you multiply that ratio with 100, then you are going to get the percentage interest rate. And here in this question, the interest rate that the investor is being exposed to is 5%. Okay, so we are going to continue our topics and learnings in the next video.